Hi, everybody out there from the listening tree. We want to talk about our next guest, Bert Barten, and he takes sounds of trees and turns it into music. We're gonna post a little clip of his music at the end of the interview, but we hope you enjoyed the interview, and we remind you to check out our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channels and support us on social media and follow us. We always have interesting shows, and Bert Barten out there in the Amsterdam recording trees is very interesting. And again, we'll post a clip of his music after the interview. Hi, everybody in the listening tree. We have a very special guest today, a Dutch musician, artist, and composer. His bio includes membership in the band Nyx and many other projects. He has completed work on theater projects such as Faust, Don Quixote, Storm, Dante, and the Odyssey, amongst other things. His interview with us today is with his involvement in the Talking Trees project, which translates communication between trees into music and other data. Welcome, Bert Barten, to the listening tree.
Hello, Colin. Nice to see you here. There's 5,800 miles between us. That's nice to know that the world is so small that we can communicate with each other. Beautiful.
So on your Talking Trees, how did you start recording trees and then transition it to music?
Yeah, that's a strange story. I was walking in the redwoods in San Francisco one day, and with my friend Scott Gresham Lancaster. And Scott is a professor in sonology, so sound of the earth, also geosonification. And but he had a small lie detector with him. And this lie detector was on batteries. So we were walking and taking a walk and tried to lie as good as possible to each other and see if the lie detector wouldn't notice it. That was the game we were playing. Two old hippies in a forest. So one time we were walking for half an hour or so. And then I said to him, can a tree lie? Because a pine tree is a pine tree. You cannot decide to be an oak tree tomorrow. Human beings can. They can change their identities. So then he walked up to the tree and he hooked up the lie detector to the tree. And then we saw waveforms on the lie detector. We thought, this is strange. And I had a little thing. Oh, I have it here. I'm in my studio now. This is called a crackle box. And I connected the crackle box to the lie detector. And then I heard these strange crack sounds. And then we said, what is this? And then we started to talk about this project, Talking Trees. But in the meantime, we had a lot of projects going. Scott in his university in Berkeley, and I here in Amsterdam. So, but every year we found each other and said, we should do something with Talking Trees. And one day they were cutting down the forest in Poland, here in Europe. And there was a big problem because that forest is the measurement of all the forests in whole of Europe. So that's the 0 point. If you take that away, the 0 point, we don't know what the quality of forest in Europe would be. So I went to the European Union to talk to them and said, hey, what are these guys doing? We got to stop them. And but then we talked with the government of Poland and decided that they could take some wood out of the forest, but only around it, so like a fire wall in the forest, and then they stopped. So the forest is still protected nowadays. And then we could stop actually with the whole project, but I was so involved in making music of this and doing concerts that I'm addicted now. So I want to get all these vibrations inside trees and convert them into music. That's what I'm doing now, yeah.
We have something to share, something we innovated over here with trees. I think you like it. But we're going to stick with the interview for right now. Your concerts seem very high tech and beautiful visually. I mean, we saw some of these clips, they were incredible. Can you talk about some of the technology involved?
Yes, I measure 4 things on trees, and these data go into a lot of computers. And I take the music part, and my friend Hans Meyer takes the visual part of it. So he translates the vibrations into visuals, and I translate those things into music. And with our concerts, these two ingredients come together, and we cook it up to this performance. The nice thing is that it's always something that is happening in real time. So we don't know how the concert is going to be, or what the concert is going to look like, or how it sounds like. So every gig is a new performance, and that 80% of it is improvisation, you could say, electronic improvisation. And that's what I like about it, being in the here and now when you do it. And that's also what the audience feels when they come and visit our concerts, really being in the here and now and being in connection with nature around, you know, or with the trees around you. It's a very special experience.
We know we took our name from something we actually call the listening tree. It's a very large white pine here in Litchfield, and we went and listened to it. Just sat there and listened to it, and so we kind of know.
Yeah.
So you talked about your shows. Where have you gone with that? How many different countries and places?
We had a lot of shows standing here in Europe now at the moment. You know, France, Belgium, Germany, Spain, Italy, and but they're all cancelled. You know, they're all cancelled, and that's the horrible times that we live in, or the bizarre times that we live in now.
Yeah.
So and really now we should reconnect with nature in these times. I think we're as human beings, we're far away from nature, and this is a call to return. So that would have been a very good sign, also these concerts, to reconnect with nature. But yeah, alas, it's not happening at the moment. I hope that we can in next year we can go again. We're all ready to go on tour.
And we're ready to have you. So this transition's nice. At the and I hope I get this right.
Mm-hmm.
At the Chateau de Grazou, can you tell us about your events and what you're doing there? That place looks like it has a lot of history, a very beautiful place. We'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, Chateau de Grazou is my base of talking trees in France, you could say. I give training sessions there in deep listening. I have a sound studio there, and in the summertime I always invite all my friends to come there, my musician friends. And this summer I created 3 new albums that we're working on right now to master them. And I made a CD with jazz musicians together with talking trees, and with classical musicians also, violinists. So talking trees will be appearing in different musical forms. That's what I did in Chateau de Grazou last summer. Chateau is a place where I have about 20 rooms or something like that, and I can invite all my friends to come there in the summer. And what is also there, that 3 times a year I have a little festival there. About 500 people every time show up, and then for 3 days it's music, nature, and trees, and lots of good food and good company. So it's a very important thing for me. I have it about this is the 15th year I have it, and yeah, it's a beautiful place for inspiration. And nowadays also it's I invited artists to come there, so it's an artist residence as well. If artists send me an email, then they can also join this artist residence if they want to. Yeah.
And you know what, Bert, thank you. Wow, we put this off for months because of the virus, and then I started working 7 days a week. So,
Yeah.
and time zone, the differences. So thank you so much. You're very patient. How long have you been involved with music and the arts?
I started when I was about 8 years old, playing the accordion. And I did that until I was 14, I think, 12, 13. And then I started playing piano and guitar. And I started composing on a very early age, about 14, 15. I wrote my own songs. And then I had a band called Marshmallow. And we went on tour with 3 big buses and a lot of hippies in these buses. And we traveled through Europe for about 5, 6 years.
That sounds fun.
The wild days of hippies, yeah. It was very, very good fun.
Myself, so I know.
Yeah. So, and then they told me, Bert, you're making theater. Why? Because I worked with all different kind of disciplines on stage. I had poets on stage, what you say, jazz musicians, opera singers. I had also theater makers. I had puppet players, action painting, the whole thing. We called it happenings, you know, in those days. All these different disciplines were on one stage. And I really liked that. And but then they told me, Bert, you're making theater. And then I was in Cologne, and I went into a theater. I was about 24, I think, 25. And then I saw a play called The Tempest of Shakespeare without any text. And that's very strange for a Shakespeare performance, of course. And it was done by Lindsay Kemp. That was the movement director of David Bowie also.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I was crying. It was beautiful pictures. There was light and sound, and it was so nice. And that all the things that I had in my head, how a performance should look like, was there. And that was The Tempest of Shakespeare. So I said to my whole crew, and that was a little bit disappointing for them because I wanted to make theater. So I went back to the Netherlands, and they all went without a job. Those days. That was horrible, but I had to follow my intuition.
You had
so
to. Yeah.
I started working at North Netherlands theater company in the north of Holland, and I could do there my own plays. And then I was asked to make these special site-specific events outside. And that was really, for me, I was working for 4 years in a black box. And then when the walls fell away, you know, being in nature and putting these performances there. And the first one I did was The Storm. And that was also based on The Tempest of Shakespeare. And I did it also without text. Just to try and see if I should do that, how would that look like, you know, in a site-specific event instead of in a black box. And then I did all these big theater spectacles because I got hooked on this freedom of being in nature and using your imagination to from a very young age, I was always interested in the mystical experience of human beings because I had a few of those mystical experiences when I was young, and I always wanted to take my audience to that place where these mystical experiences appear. And that's also in the theater world. You can really imagine make a world like that and get people involved in that. So that's what I was doing the last 12 to 14 years, I think, these big theater spectacles. And then this thing with talking trees happened, you know, that I thought I have to do something. I was always involved with nature. I was one of these activists in the 70s that we had sour rain in those days. I don't know if you had it in America.
Oh,
yeah. And that was what all these gases in fridges, that freon gas it was, you know, that, and but that's gone now because we did that also. So from those days on, I was always involved in these nature aspects of life.
we're always in forest, so we understand. I mean, we get the connection with nature.
Oh, I'm jealous.
How does the public access your arts and expression, your products, your recordings? Why don't you give yourself a little promo here and your websites and all that stuff?
Okay. Well, we're designing a new website at the moment, so that's very interesting. And the whole thing is going to be upscaled as well, the Talking Trees project, because a lot of people in these days connected with us, DJs and other musicians, and so they all want to get involved in this, but also companies want to get involved, and so we're talking to a lot of people. The thing that we decided to do is when I phoned up the author organization here in the Netherlands and asked them from who are these author rights from the music from the trees. It should be from the trees. And then they said to me, yeah, but they cannot sign a contract, Bert. You're the artist, so you signed a contract. So, and then I said, okay, then I'm going to do something back for the trees. I'm going to plant 5 million trees in the Netherlands. And this project has just started. The first 32,000 trees are planted right at this moment in the south of Holland. I'm going to be 5 million in the Netherlands. I make 50 million trees in Europe. We're going to plant, and I want to plant 500 million trees in the rest of the world. That's the goal that we have set ourselves. And we're talking to a lot of planting organizations at the moment, and we're getting all the money in. For 10 euros, you can buy a tree on our website, and we will take care of it. So that is the main action that I'm doing now. And also through the website, you can see where the concerts will be in the future. You can also see the event we're going to organize about the release of the 3rd album that we had. The first album that we made was a live concert, just recorded live. The second one was a dance CD that I made with one of the producers of Massive Attack, Paul Withrow, and it's really dance patterns. And the third one is more ambient. It's called Raw Data. I try to stay as close as possible to the trees with the ambient CDs that I made in. It's 3 albums actually. Because it's about 3 times 80 minutes. That's 240 minutes of tree experience that you can get, and that will be released before the end of the year, I think. So through the website www.talkingtrees.com, you can enter all these. How do you call that? Expressions. Let me call it like that.
I couldn't. There's so many arts. I just went with expressions.
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about recording other things? I do projects where I go into forest myself. I'm not going to promote that project. I'm not even going to name it. But I found myself, this is crazy, talking to rocks. Have you ever thought about recording things like rocks and other plants and water?
In every aspect, there's a message. If it's a leaf or a rock, and you can measure anything. But this is a nice thing to hear. I was in Berkeley at the university, and there is this professor. He puts sensors deep into the ground because California is going to. One day it will disappear into the sea, you know. So you have the St. Andreas line that's going there, isn't it?
Andreas Fault.
Yeah, exactly. And what he does, he measures all these little earthquakes that happen all the time, the small ones. And I was sitting next to him, and then we sonified all these little explosions that he could see on the screen, and we made sounds to it, loud sounds, less sounds. And then we were doing that, and he could look back for about 20 years until now, what was happening with these little earthquakes happening all the time. And then he looked at me and he said, Bert, this is interesting. I'm measuring from the rocks deep down in the earth to the surface of the earth, geosonification, it's called. And I'm measuring from the roots of the trees until the top of the trees. So he said, together we are measuring the vibrations of the skin of the earth, he said. And It's such a nice expression, the skin of the earth. And we're crawling around on the skin of the earth, but we're treating it not that well, you know. We human beings don't seem to understand that it's such a vulnerable place that we live in. And especially when you look at the vibrations of this professor and my vibrations, that we're trying to, there's also a little education component in the whole thing, you know. So that was a very interesting thing. So I was measuring the vibrations with this professor from the rocks until the surface of the earth.
So
Yes.
you've done it. Yeah.
Yeah.
People seem to, when I watch these videos, in my own experience, I found it very calming, you know, solid in a deep sort of way. You want to talk about that?
Yes. I'm practicing Zen for about 25 years now, I think. So the only problem that I have when I'm listening to trees are my own loud thoughts that come up all the time. What is my quality of listening? That is a deep question that you can ask yourself. Sometimes the thoughts can be so loud that there's no place for listening. We talk and we do things, you know, but are we listening? Listening is a skill that you have to learn. So when I'm sitting next to trees of, say, 500 years old, and I'm putting my senses on there and see what is happening, you know, then you have to be very, very quiet to get to this place, this silent place, where, and that's scary for a lot of people. Silence is a scary place. That's also when I teach meditation and this deep listening process, then the first thing that comes up, people are start to laugh, or they start to cry, you know, all the pain comes out. But it's so nice to sit next to this empty place and just sit next to it. And there's a mystical tradition that says we all carry along a hole in ourselves, and we have to fill up this hole with things. So we throw in things like education, like work, like alcohol, drugs, sex. I don't know, that this hole has to be filled up. But can you sit next to the hole without doing anything? Just feeling all this tension, all this calling, all these emotions, and can you sit next to it without doing anything? That's something I learned from Zen meditation. And I can use that very well when I go into the forest and listen to the trees, because I can empty myself and be there. So I'm not afraid of the silence inside me anymore. And that's what I teach also in Gressou, in Château de Gressou in France. And that's what I teach also on different places in the world. When we have in concerts, I do the same thing, meditate with people.
It's very interesting. We have frogs. I don't know if you have tree frogs over there.
No, we don't.
So we have these frogs that climb up to the very top. So these gigantic trees, ash trees and maples and whatnot. And we live in the edge of this forest. And what we heard here is that one tree frog will talk to another, talk to another, talk to another, fades out. Then you don't hear it. Then it sort of comes back around and talks until the original loud frog you hear voices his or her expression, and then it goes back. And they peep and peep and peep. And what we determined is that this goes for vast miles. It's got to be 50, 60 miles until it comes back. Fascinating.
That's fascinating. That's really fascinating.
You come here and record them.
Okay. One day I will. Yes. I was looking on the map where it is.
I know that you're into you, but I'm going to share. You talk about Zen and spiritualism.
Yeah.
I was walking, as I always do, several years back with a friend, and my hands go up when I get in these forests. They start, and I'm walking. And usually the person is behind me, they can't see me. Mm-hmm. I was asked from behind, what do you keep doing? And I didn't even realize I was doing it. So I said, well, I guess the closest thing you could call it is tree yoga.
Yeah.
So I started. Do you do this? Sway with
No,
trees.
there's this beautiful thing that you stand like a tree with your hands in front of you. Do you know that? Just go a little bit through your knees if you stand up, and then like you're embracing a tree, and then you stand there. That's an art form in Japan. You should Google it. Stand like a tree, and these people stand here for 2 hours like this. So and then you have to think that here there's a little like it's floating on the water, you know, your elbows. So then you can hold it for a longer time if you imagine that it's floating on water. And then there's a lot of health benefits if you do that. But it's the first time I did it, 10 minutes, and then you're out, you know, everything hurts. But if you do it for a longer period of time, it's a beautiful exercise. Stand like a tree, it's called.
And so I was just doing that naturally, but moving, making.
Yeah, like that, yeah.
Yeah, and then it transitioned to clouds, and then bubbles under streams.
Yeah.
And once I was aware of what I was doing, once I expressed to this person, it became almost like Tai Chi. And every time I go now into the woods and the forest, I do it. But back to you, my friend.
Fantastic.
What other project are you involved with that you would like to talk about?
At the moment, I do. Yesterday, I had a very interesting conversation with the University of Wageningen. They are experimenting with forests in Europe all over the place and creating new sensors on trees. And I'm involved in that process for creating new sensors. And they want to monitor these trees 24 hours a day. Why do they want to do that? They are planting different forests at the moment to see if the climate change goes like it goes now. They want to have forests that are resilient to climate change. And I was involved in that project yesterday to talk about how that works and how we can do that, how we can create that. So that's a thing that I'm very interested in, because when I get the data live from these trees around the world, because they want to do it around the world, what the quality of forests are around the world, they want to monitor that. That would be very nice for me, because I can plug in then live on different forests in the world. So I can say, okay, I want to connect with the California redwoods, with the Black Forest here in Germany, and then listen to them in a concert. That would be great if I could do that live. Well, so that is a project I'm working on.
Yeah, we would be part of this.
Oh, great. I can inform you, and let's see if we can hook you up with it. That would be nice.
Yeah, we love collaboration. What you're doing is great. Yeah. What is your next event? What's your upcoming thing?
The upcoming thing is now, actually, I'm in my studio now, and we are mastering now the 3-double album with the raw data of trees. This I work with 2 different kinds of data. One data is live, that I put the sensors on the trees, and then I can play live with them. The other one is that I get information from universities all over the world, these big data sheets. They monitor trees already, but they measure them every half hour. So every half hour, there's a little change in the, I can see that in the Excel sheets that I get. A friend of mine in Helsinki here translates these data into MIDI data. Now, 1 note per half hour is not what a human being considers to be music. So what I do is I compress these data into, say, a month into 10 minutes. And then you get a time lapse. Yeah, you know what a time lapse film is, if you see a tree growing very fast. So, I do that with music. So I compress it, and then these ostinato patterns become real. And it's very interesting to combine these data of different forests in a digital form with the analog form that I use on stage. And that is also where my research is going. From a lot of biologists come to me now to listen to the rhythm of nature, to the heartbeat of the trees. So that's a very good cooperation. That is what I'm working on now. And yeah, the first project is now the 3 albums, getting the release of the 3 albums.
We're going to put those links up on the listening tree.
Okay.
How would people support your projects? Are there any products or anything like that?
Yeah, buy a tree. That's the best way to say it. You don't pay for tickets when we do concerts. We want to plant trees, so buy a tree. That's the best way to plant trees, and also subsidize a little bit my projects, or help realize my projects. So I don't want money, I want you to buy trees.
This is great, everybody out there. So buy a tree, support this. Your environmental cause is great. This is just wonderful. How would people get in touch with you to find out more about this?
Yeah, there's a button on our website. Click on it and you can buy a tree. But there's also www.talkingtrees.com. That's the website where you go to. And then just push the button and buy a tree. And we'll keep you posted where all these trees are going to be planted. And we're going to post also where we do the concerts and when new material is coming out. We
would love to do something here with you. We have outside theaters and trees, and maybe we could talk about a collaboration. We don't.
I'll come over and do a concert. Why not?
Oh yes. Oh, let's do this. Yep.
Yeah, why not? Yep. I have a friend of mine in New York, and one of my ambitions is to do a concert in Central Park.
Oh, they have some.
So yeah, Rory McAvoy is his name, and his company. I forgot his company's name. No, I forgot it. So, but Rory is someone who could organize that for us in New York. And I'm really looking forward if we could realize that. That would be a dream come true. And also, the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil invited me also. So that's also a nice thing. But Brazil is, yeah, for forests, is a disaster at the moment, isn't it?
Amazon, the mother forest of the whole earth.
Yeah.
Bert, this is great what you've done, what you're doing. Your love of the arts and mixing that with the environment, being so patient, articulating your expression. We want to thank you for this, the listening to you. Really gave us a substantial interview here.
Thank you, Colin, for for the possibility to do this with you. And I look forward to a future cooperation with the Listening Tree.
We've been doing events for 30 years with poetry. So music and expression. I've worked with the National Theater for the Deaf and the American School of the Deaf.
Okay.
And you talked about theater with no text, with no words.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done that. Yeah, I've worked with them. If you've never worked with the sign language people, wow, they're cool.
They're cool. Yeah.
A lot of expression without words.
Yeah.
So
my Zen master lives in a monastery, and there are also priests involved, and they didn't speak for about 34 years when I met him in the 70s. And he, in his life, it was a silence order, you know. So, but they invented this sign language for the deaf people. This is very interesting. They worked close together with inventing this. It's such a nice place to be. Also in the south of Holland, they started it. Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, we would like to visit you.
Okay, well, you're welcome. Come to Gressu. I invite you.
Our farm. We'll listen to the tree frogs.
Yes, I will do that.
So I guess we'll wrap this up. We're going to put up your links. You're just a great guest. What you're doing here is, well, as we do in the Listening Tree, you're a community hero. We're going to buy a tree. We're going to plant some here. And if you want us to do anything in Connecticut, we have vast tracts of forest. We'd love to be involved.
Thank you very much. I will keep that in mind. Thank you for the possibility to express myself here at the listening tree.
And we got it done. This was Bert, you know, this was a tough collaboration, getting the times together, and so many miles.
Yeah.
You truly are a very patient person, great artist, and we both want to call you our friend now.
It's an honor. Thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you. So everybody, check out the Talking Trees project. Get in touch with this guy, buy a tree, and we're going to give you, Bert, the last word here.
Okay, well, people, we have to save the human race. Nature takes care of itself, you know. If we are gone, the nature will take care of itself. You can see that everywhere. So what we do for nature is not only for nature, it's also for ourselves. So that's my message to all the world. Be the change, plant a tree.
Thank you, Bert Barten, from the Listening Tree and to the Talking Tree Project. Everybody have a nice day.